Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing, sir?
Good day, sir. No, good. Yeah,
Are you
doing
well?
well.
Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you so much for asking. Um, man, the temptation was major today, man. It's like the sun is out. Am I really gonna come in here today?
Yeah, I think such a
But
lovely day. Yeah, it was
say again.
really, really lovely day, and it's still hot now.
Yeah, exactly. Then the words to talk to you isn't it like you better stay outside and enjoy. This is the summer. Yeah, is the family okay?
Yeah, everyone's okay, and yeah, enjoying a good, quiet evening.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant,
Yeah,
brilliant. Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be an amazing evening because we got a major surprise. I think it's a surprise because like all over. Um, Jordan is going to bless us this evening. Um, Me and I think in the course of the week, I can't remember which day, a few days ago, we just had like a nice conversation. And the brother was just sharing with me, and it's like, wow, man, you need to break this thing down to the brothers. This is the session right here. But this evening, uh, let me just add Mr. Chido here quickly. What is here, sir?
good day, Mr. Chida.
Yeah. So this evening we are going to talk about. Well, let me rather say, Mr. Jordan is going to facilitate the session this evening, and he's going to talk about 5 lessons learned from playing the game. Man, I'm like, I've got my phone ready to take some notes and put my head in and just receive, because I know that when he opens his mouth, there's always some serious wisdom that is flowing. So, sir, we're not going to delay it any further. You go into it, and and yeah, the stage is yours, sir. Go for it.
Thanks, Hendrik, and hi, Chidazi. Good to see you today, um, and everyone else. Yeah, it's been a interesting discussion I had with Kendrick in the week, because just before we spoke on a call, um, I I stumbled across a documentary that looked at describing, basically explaining things. So you can always check it out on Netflix, but it's called Explaining. So you got various things that people want more clarity on, and it's things that we think we know of or have encountered in before or come across, but we don't dig deeper into it. So when we try and unravel things that we might have been part of or participated, when you really want an explanation, you go a bit deeper in. And it was fascinating, the bit about the game of chess, just how relevant it is, I think, to our lives and our day-to-day activities and our approach to life. And I'll cover a few things which I thought there's lots of topics on it, but just 5 things I thought was really good that stood out for me. Um, and I think chess, the board game of chess being, I think, the oldest, if not one of the oldest board games. And we're talking more than 1,500 years ago it was introduced, or it was first played in its various forms, and it's got 46 block squares. Um, and of course, you got all your pawns taking the first row, and some interesting uh, characters behind the pawns that can do various things, but most of them are limited uh, to one sort of move or one strategy that you can use to get them forward. But the interesting thing was the relationship between the game, because I used to play in the past, just for fun when I was growing up, and not so much anymore. But I think uh, if you understand the game, if you don't, I would encourage you to at least give it a try and find out what the rules are. Because like those rules, there's rules in life as well. Things that we have that we can't go outside. That's basically the boundaries for us. So you can move a pawn only forward in a forward position, only one square. And if you start, you can go 2 squares. So that's a rule for the pawn. After you move it 2 squares, you can only go 1 after that. So if you try and move it 2 after the second time, you're breaking the rules. And I think rules are there to keep us on track and to keep us in the direction that we need to go. But of course, there's a strategy behind it, and there's a way to attempt to win your opponent. And the interesting thing for me was just reading up a bit about it. I'll just kind of give you a quick introduction before I say what the 5 lessons are that I learned, but we can have a discussion on that. Just give you a bit of background of the game. So a chess game is a game played one-on-one, where every movement of a piece can make the difference between winning or losing. And I think in life we have those opportunities and those challenges, whether we want to win at something or lose out on something. And we have to make a decision. But it can also be seen as a challenge against yourself. And you have to know how to concentrate and look ahead to foresee upcoming moves, both your own and your opponents. And if we look at opponents, we can think of life and the challenges we have and the decisions we have to make. We have to make a decision to preempt something life will throw at us in an attempt to make a good move so that we're in a good position for the next move. And yes, like in life, every move, every decision puts you on a new course, and it changes the whole dynamics of the game or even of life, because every decision has an impact. I just wanted to find out what your views are, the guys in the call. What do you think the challenges are of making decisions that has consequences, but also trying to find out the consequences of your decision or your first move, what your opponent or someone else thinks at the same time, and how they're going to react. Because we all want a reaction. If we want something and we negotiate or have a discussion or ask someone a question, we want some feedback. Just wanted to hear your views on that. Anyone?
All right. You want to go, Mr. Tito? You want to go for it?
I'll let you go first. Apologies, I was just interrupted by.
All right, no worries. Man, this one is another level, isn't it? Because as you were saying, like when we had a session in the course of the week, and kind of as I was thinking on it, it is just so clear how life in itself, you can actually view it as a game, and like even as you were saying, there are so many decisions that you and I have to make. Not only, I mean, every second of the day, there's decisions that we have to make, whether it's big ones or whether it's small ones. And I think, like, just to get to your question, is like when we with decisions, I think it's something that we get away from, because not making a decision is also is a decision in itself. And I think life, just in general, the reason why I am today and where you are today, each and every one of us, is because of the series of decisions that we've made over a period of time. And decisions are not consequential. Consequences attached to to each and every decision that we make. And this game is a perfect illustration as to whether it's just a small pond. I have a little bit of an understanding of how the game works. Even if it's just a small pond, you're moving it. You make that is a small, insignificant, but no, it makes a difference. So just in general, when you're asking about making decisions is life. That's why even God Himself says that I put before you life and death. You choose. That's a decision. Um, and yeah, so we've kind of like need to learn how to make not necessarily the right decision, but I think it's good decisions, because we won't always make the right decision. Um, that's why we shouldn't be afraid to make decisions, because the reason why I say we shouldn't be afraid, because we can always our mind. There's a brilliant about having a mind. Always change your mind. And I think if we are always afraid of making a wrong decision, we will never get to a place where we want to be, because we will all cautious. We will always be like, oh no, this what if I make the wrong decision? So what? Yeah, then just kind of like turn around and make a different one. But I guess some decisions are there's some serious to pay. Some decisions it will take years to define. So I guess, but let me not get ahead of myself, because I know that you kind of like are going to steer the conversation. But yeah, I think decisions is paramount. We can't get away from it. We can't.
Yeah,
That's me.
yeah, that's a very good one to share there. Thank you so much, Henrik, and thanks, Andrew. It's one of those things. The opposite of or the consequence of not making decisions is stagnance. Because you imagine when you're at a crossroad, like in this game that we're talking about. At a crossroad, you need to go somewhere, and that's how we are in life all the time. We always find ourselves at points where we need to take a stand and choose a direction. Now, if we are not going to choose a direction, that means we are not going to go in any direction. We'll just end up being there, just being there, watching the 2 or 3 or 4 options. Go back, you get a cup of tea, you come and look at the 3 or 4 decisions. You say, no, I need another cup of coffee. I just take coffee. That's 10 years gone. And then you go back and say, oh no, maybe I need a strong wine now to make. And then you go back. The point I'm trying to make is it sort of keeps you at that point, because until you make that decision, then there is no chance to make the next one. Sometimes I read somewhere that there is this joke in the military that says a bad decision is better than no decision at all. And so, because sometimes you want to give a command to do something, but you're scared that what if, but you don't have time to do all those what ifs. So if you take a direction, then even if all your platoon gets killed, at least you took a decision in a certain direction. But understanding that there was no choice than to make a decision. Wherever it leads you, wherever it leads me, then that's where we are. Another decision will now lead us out from there. But whether it's good or bad, then we can learn from the experience. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Good. Welcome, Clinton. Thanks for joining. Yeah, we were just discussing, just to give you an update on the game of chess. I just gave a quick introduction, and we're still getting to the 5 points, so you came at the right time. What we just wanted to know was, in decision making, like in the chess game, it has consequences, but as Chidozie and Clinton Kendrick just mentioned, is you have to make a decision. And Kendrick also mentioned you've got choices, but you can't not make a choice. And it has to be, even if it's a small decision, it has an impact. And in the game of chess, if you're familiar with the game, we spoke about the analogy the other day that even the pawns, they sort of small fry. Most people don't think much of them, but you have to move them sort of in a strategic way forward. They can't go backwards, right? So me, that means you make it, and even if it's a small one, it takes you in the direction you want, and it moves you forward. We'll come to some of the other topics later, but for you to give us some idea of what you think of choices, never mind how big or small, but the impact that has. And what I mentioned earlier, it changes the whole dynamic of the game. And that means it changes life, the dynamic of life. But we can change our mind, like Kendrick said. But changing your mind means you go in another direction. Your opponent doesn't know you change your mind. But the opponent's trying to preempt what your next move is. So what's your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, I find these sessions very interesting because every time we've got a topic come up, it's quite interesting that a day or two in advance or a couple hours in advance, I'm talking about these similar topics with somebody. I was speaking with somebody today. They were telling me about they seem to be coming to this circular state of affairs in their life, and nothing seems to be really moving forward, and they're just fed up. And one of the things I said to them, I said, well, the interesting thing about every humankind is that we have that, and I used the same word last week, whether you want to believe you're a Christian or whatever you want to think you are, we all have the Holy Spirit with us. And you hear that clarity that tells you, actually, if you do this. So whether you want to give ears to that or not, and the only way, in my view, that you're able to have clarity on the steps to go forward is that you've got to make a decision. It's very interesting that God also helps you if he realizes that your faith is not at the level where your blessing is expected to be. It's funny enough, I think he helps you to break down your decision making for you. So it's not that all of a sudden you're choosing to expect less of yourself. He's actually saying, okay, do you want to change? Do you want to see something different? It's either yes or no. You've got to make a decision. And then you make that decision. You say, okay, well, are you prepared to do this? Because you've got to do that. And the reason I take this road is because it doesn't matter whether it's a therapist, psychiatrist, a doctor. It's quite hilarious how they all have a particular pattern of asking you questions to pull out the answers that you have in you because they're not bringing any answers to you. All they're doing is bringing clarity to the answers you already have. So it boils down to the fact that you have to make a decision. When you make a decision, bit by bit, the clarity comes as to the direction you should go. And some people, because they put themselves in various classes, such as I am not good with working with change, I am slow to act, and so they put themselves in all of these brackets. But it just boils down to the one factor that they seem to get off on delayed decision making. which is quite similar to what Chidozi was just saying just now. And they go on and that, and then they create a pity party for it, a wonderful party around it. But you haven't made the decision yet. So let me give you two clear examples. You want to grow your business. You've got a bit of money. However you have it, credit cards, I don't know, however you have it. But you know that one of the things you need to do is that you need to get how you need to make clear the perception, what you have out there of people knowing about you, and the perception that you want to give them. Because you know in your head at a very standard and basic level that if you go out there and you spend this money and do the marketing, most likely it could be blasey blasey. And you get back nothing. However, because you don't want to make that decision to really stick and focus and do what you've got to do, and you come up with all sorts of excuses, you outsource that to somebody else. So you haven't made the decision to make the real impact. What you've done is you've done a delayed decision, because the action that you have taken produces absolutely not even a stupid result. It produces false results, no results. Because you're asking somebody who don't know you, who don't understand what is out there, and has no clarity or idea what it should be, to do something and represent you. So you obviously will get nothing really from there. And majority of people will do that and take your money. What about a young man that then says, I am lonely, I've got, or a person, I'm lonely, I'm this and that and that. You say, well, listen, you know, all these women out there, or whatever the case is, you need, you should do. What are you doing? Well, I'm not going to church these days because of the COVID, so I do in my church from home. And well, have you gone around to the to the bingo club or gone around? No. But I want to meet this. He thinks that the Lord is going to drop. But the funny thing is, and I hope whoever's listening to this really grasps this particular part about it. God is not waiting on you. It's you waiting on you. God has done everything from the time you were created, even before you hit here on this earth as a spirit. He knows exactly every single thing, all done. His work is done from the beginning to the end, to the end to the beginning. It is you who have to discover this thing. So everybody who says, I'm waiting on God to do this, God has done everything. It's you the one. And when you make that decision and you make that move, there is an amazing moment that happens. And it continues every time you keep doing, I don't want to see an accumulation. What's the right word? When you keep incremental, it's an experience. It's a learning. It's so much more you get. But I can't stress how important it is for you to just make that decision. And you just don't make it. You've got to make it with your all. You've got to go all in. You can't make it with skepticism, because you will receive what you sow. That's it for me.
Andrew, you are muted. You are on mute, sir.
Sorry there. Thanks,
No worries.
Clinton. Thanks for that update. I like what you said about you have to put everything in, go all in. And at the same time, every decision has a consequence. So the 5 topics we have, I didn't want to just say it at the start, but what you basically have covered is part of the first one, which is think before you make a decision. Because we know, we just talked about the consequences, decisions big and small. Everything does have an impact. And I think we mentioned earlier, even a pawn. So it doesn't seem to matter. It's such a insignificant piece, but has such big consequences. And I think the same is true in life. Our words and our actions have consequences. A careless word or gesture can do more harm than we think sometimes. And it delivers an outcome that either we anticipate, but we don't know what it is, which means we're always trying to get the best out of others in our interactions. But our decisions we make, what we say and do in life, does have quite a big impact. If I take us to the second point I had in mind, which was you have to pay attention right from the first move. So I think chess doesn't allow you to be distracted even for a second. You can think you know what your opponent is like when you start the game. And especially if you haven't played against someone before, someone new, same in life, you encounter something new. That first move is important, so you have to pay attention. And I guess you have to concentrate as soon as the game begins, if not earlier, because your attention, your mind, your focus would mean it determines how you'd react. So I guess in chess, there are also tricks to start the game in a way that gives you an immediate advantage. If you are inexperienced, your opponents use these moves. And I know a lot of people who studied chess, they probably know the moves. I don't recall all the different standard chess moves, but they do have names. And I guess people who studied chess and who really play chess competitively would sometimes start with the same pattern of moves because they know it works good for them, gives them the advantage to start off with, just to test their opponent and see where things lead. So if this is true about many things in life, if we aren't careful right from the start, we can make mistakes or miss opportunities that will cost us time and effort later on and even lead to failure. So just on that second point, what do you think is that significance as a point in life that you think you'd want to maybe expand on, or you came across, which is to pay attention right from the first move when you have to think to do something? Anyone?
Yeah, I was on mute. Apologies, guys. I was going to say I'll go first before I forget what I was going to say. It's a very good one. In one of the previous sessions, we were talking about the comparison between a job and a mission, and we agreed that for you to have a successful life, you have got to view it as a mission. And when we talk about missions, we're talking about people who go to space, who go to very, very important assignments, like going to hunt for the terrorists and so on, Navy SEALs and so on. People like that, they go on missions. They are not in a job, because if you look at the risk of what they are, the risks and the consequences of things going wrong in what their job is, what their role is, you find that nothing will really convince anybody who is just after money. That is the result of going to a job, to go and do what they have to do. So that's what differentiates it from being a job. So that's a mission. And if you have to succeed in any mission in life, then you have to make sure that you keep your eyes on the ball. people who go to such missions, they don't have time to relax and say, oh, let's just look at this and give the enemy a chance a little bit so they can take a breather and we will take a breather. You find that before they go, everything is well planned and the orchestration of the actions, they're just there laid out so that when they go there, everybody knows exactly what to do, eyes on the ball from start to finish. They only celebrate at the end or cry at the end if the mission failed. And you look at the results from missions. That's one of the key reasons why they achieve those sort of results, because they keep their eyes on the ball, and there is a huge consequence. But unfortunately, there is this illusion of life that makes us not see what we should be looking at. And things like, last week we were talking about how this year has gone. This is now June. And we have that temptation of saying, maybe next month I'll try again. Who knows? Things might change. But there's got to be that shift from the way we are thinking, which is the reality that, look, this is half of a year. And if you had dreams, this is the time to go back and look at those things and tell yourself the truth and say, listen, there is an issue here. I have to do something about it. And this is one of the things that you benefit when you're keeping your eyes on the ball, because you will not wait until it's, June before you start looking at what you aimed, what your goals are for the year. You will look at that at the end of every week. So cumulatively, you can see that if things have not gone very well, out of the 6 months, at least you would have achieved your target for the first 3 months. You will not be at zero, like some of us are. I am at this point. But if we're able to have that focus on what it is that we want to achieve and measure it continuously while working at it, then it's very easy for us to achieve things. And, I will see end with that approach of looking at things as a mission, because it's that type of mindset that will keep us on track, that will keep us careful, that will keep us focused on the important thing, which is this is a mission. We are going there. If we fail, there's a big consequence. We really, really want to achieve what we need to achieve for us to say, this year has been, successful or fruitful.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Chidozie. Yeah, I think that's really interesting, to have something become fruitful. You have to pay attention. Otherwise, you might have to redo something, isn't it? And start over. And I don't like rework. I like to do something right the first time so that it doesn't come back. And for that, I need to pay attention. Anyone else on that topic? I know we've got a couple to go through still, but yeah, any thoughts, Clinton?
I like Chidozie's thing there, because it covers literally what I was thinking of, the fact of in a lot of my work that I do, in a lot of things I can look at in my own life and see, all right, if you had paid attention to X, Y, Z, then the outcome would be different. At the same time, need to be very careful not to disregard your efforts made, because sometimes the way how you might be measuring also might not be the most effective way to measure, and therefore your expectation, because of your measurement system or way that you've set up, could land you in a position where you think you haven't paid attention, but only to realize that what you set out, what you are doing, have taken a twist in the approach. And instead of it being 4 pieces making up the whole, it's now 16 pieces. And you might think that you have not made the progress. But the actual fact is that now, because of your target being such a greater one than you actually anticipated or thought it would be, your steps have been, for want of a better word, reordered. So it's not only, I think, just paying attention to the first move to make sure. I think it's paying attention to your moves. Because although your first or second move may not look like if it's lining up, if you pay attention and bring this to your own attention, and you're able to realign yourself, you might come to realize, actually, in spite of mistake or detail missed, I'm actually on track. So I would say, not only pay attention from the first move, but you better keep paying attention continuously, because you could be in for a bigger outcome than you expected.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Clinton. Yeah,
You're
I think
welcome.
that's quite interesting. That you're absolutely right. That it's not just your first move. In my view, every move is a first move. And yes, sometimes we do work. You do things subconsciously, and you don't pay attention. So I think for me, what stands out is the paying attention bit, because you having one move after the other in succession to get to your goal. I'm just going to move on to the third topic. We can always come back and pick up some of the conversation again. The third one talks about looking ahead at different possible scenarios. So I guess in the game of chess, if you can imagine, you have to use your mind to imagine what could happen to each piece you move, and how your opponent could react, and what the consequences could be. So I think it isn't a game of chance. It's quite the contrary. It's about planning and strategy, and about figuring out for yourself what your opponent wants to do before he or she does it. So I think looking at different scenarios, we can sort of try and think ahead. And as in chess, it is vital as a vital life skill to think ahead. And the decision we make today about our studies, finances, relationships can all have long-term effects. And we don't want to redo things. We want to carry on, and we want to build on the decisions we make. But we will end up with different scenarios, which others don't see, but we probably have an indication or inkling of what that possible scenarios can be. Do you think it's a good enough point? And what's your thoughts on looking at different possible scenarios and how that can impact us in our lives?
I think it's something always good to do, something that you should be doing, because it ties in very nicely to the point we just spoke about, paying attention. I think whatever you do, you can't. It's a very weird thing to say. You can't be tunnel visioned. I would want to say you shouldn't be just fixated. I think that's because you need to be tunnel vision, obviously, to focus sometimes. But I would rather say fixated in the fact that you're so adamant that it's going to be this way and this way only. And then you tend to miss the opportunities that could come out of, well, if you looked at it from different angles. So when I'm speaking from my own example, when I'm speaking to clients, you have many times clients come to me with ideas and they think they know what they want, but then they leave this huge caveat that says, well, I'm open to hear from you as you're the expert. And you think, here am I thinking I've had clarity and everything is perfect, and this is going to be so easy. 5 points, this client is done. And then they throw in this unknown, the Fifth Amendment, suddenly, and they say, well, you're the expert. What they're asking me to do is to take what they've given me and turn it into all sorts of shapes. You can look at the sides and so a hexagon, a pentagon. Oh man, the list goes on, because they're hoping that I am going to land something that just makes this a phenomenal project. The outcome way more fantastic than they can think about. So should you look ahead at different possible scenarios? Of course you should. Should you allow yourself to be overcome and overrun and obsess with them? No. Because you have to allow yourself to... There's a way where, I think we spoke about this lately, where you give yourself time to think. You give yourself time to dream. You see what I mean? But you can't do it in such a way where you just run wild and then you go on off topic, off course, and you begin to do things that are hardly ever going to affect the bottom line or any sideline of it. You've gone completely off course. So, yes, do it. Do it within your strategy, your goals and objectives, of course, because that will keep you, that will guide you and keep you within a particular framework of what you're doing. So by all means, yes, there definitely is a but, and it depends on your goals, objectives, and strategy, which will evolve over time.
Thanks, Clinton. That's really good. I don't know if I'll go on to the next topic. We've got 2 more to cover. Now I might just ask, put my brother on the spot, Kendrick.
Yes, sir.
So you have to make a move, isn't it? So we know there's different scenarios like Clinton just mentioned. And what was interesting when I watched this documentary on the game of chess was it's impossible to know all the different scenarios, but you're not expected to know everything in life. In chess, for every move that is made, the whole dynamics of the game changes. And apparently they try to work out with computer power, now that computers can play chess, how many possibilities there are. And we're talking 10 to the power 120. It's trillions of possibilities that a game could end up in. But no human being can remember all those or learn all those, even the grandmasters. So that's quite interesting. But if we look at topic 4, you have to make a move, because if we look at chess where you play against time and your opponents play this move and he hits the clock, your time's running out and you can lose the game on losing time. So I think during tournaments, players have limited time sometimes. So players have, I guess, 2 hours to make their first 40 moves, and then another hour for the next 20. So there's certain rules at the competitive game, but in life sometimes there's no rules. We make up the rules for time. When we move, how we move. But while there's a reflection on importance, as we mentioned, it's also vital that we be able to make decisions and not get caught up in eternal deliberation and indecision. What's your thoughts on that, Kendrick?
Thank you so much, sir. You have to make a move. Like what I was mentioning is not making a move is in itself is we are actually making a move, because for us not taking any action, it's, that we are still going to get some kind of a result. It most probably will be the result that we don't desire. And I think one of the guys did mention earlier that you rather a wrong move or wrong decision, because I think my thesis is, when we try to always make the right decision, we will make very few moves. We will always kind of like try to hold back because we are too scared that if I make a specific move, there are going to be some kind of consequences that I don't want. But the reality of it all is, the move that you and I usually make is not the perfect move. It's the same thing that when we a journey, it's not a straight route. It's not like, I start from here, I'm just gonna continue to move, and no, there are going to be diversions, there are going to be roadblocks, there are going to be obstacles on our way, and we are going to end up having to change our minds on, and we will even realize that, okay, the decision that I've made was not the best decision, but I thank God I actually did make a decision. Because I think the way I see this is, sometimes the first decision that we've made, yeah, it might be the wrong decision, but I was able to correct if I did not make the first decision. But I think also there's a lot of courage that goes with that, because there are so many outside influences that affect um, our ability to make certain decisions or to make a move. But I think once we're at a place where we kind of like are very clear on what it is that we're after, then we'll be bold enough to make it, even if it's the wrong. But I will also say, on the flip side of that, we should also not be afraid of not making a decision or holding back, because some it will cost us more, because I think we have, or the kind of like the perception is like, if we want to see results, you got to move fast, but we don't even hold back and think. That's what we spoke about over the last couple of weeks, is the ability to think things through, and look at the different scenarios, because the advantage is you should always have options, and every option that you are faced with will not necessarily be the perfect option. The question is, which one are you willing to compromise on? Which one are you willing to live with? Because each and every one of us will live with our decisions. Each and every one of us will live with the move that yesterday. I'll have and be willing to live with it, or that decision that you've made. So I think that's what I would say on that side. We just gotta find the balance. We gotta find the balance.
Thanks, Kendrick. That's really, really good. And I like the fact that you say yes, sometimes you have to take your time, and we know sometimes you have to be hasty to make decisions. Some decisions are urgent, others not so much, but you have to make a move, isn't it? And indecision can also cause a delay in a result. And I guess even if you make the wrong move, and I think it's Judozi that said in the case in the military, that's something they do. They have to make a decision, no matter if it's known of all the consequences of that decision, but it's better than no decision. Just on the fifth topic, I want to say it's to be patient. And I guess patience for us doesn't always come easily. So when you see what your opponent has made as a move that will allow you to capture one of his or her pieces, isn't it? But sometimes there's 3 pieces that's up for grabs. And only through your patience, you might have unknowingly missed eating another opponent's piece, but the opponent also missed that. But through your patience, you got more options. And you can end up feeling excited or anxious to make that counter move, but you have to be patient and wait your turn and consider whether or not that might be a trap as well, to make you, I guess, lower your defenses where else you are on the board. So if you move something away, you leave a gap. And sometimes patience can also pay dividends. And I guess there are some of the ways that in chess and other games contain lessons that we can help us in real life. And I guess the next time we sit down to play a game of chess, would we know that you're not wasting your time, but you're actually learning something and you're training yourself for life. But just quickly, what's your thoughts on patience? Because let's say you got things to do for the week and all of the decisions you made didn't work out. How much patience do you have? Do you just throw in the towel, or do you wait? Or do you keep it in the back of your mind and pick it up again? And how long do you wait to do that? Any thoughts on that? I'm sure we've come across being tested for patience.
Anyway, that's why we are where we are. I'll just jump in and talk about that one, being patient. You know, it's very easy to look at this as a different heading, even though it is a very, very, very valid heading when you look at these lessons. But you think about the way we approach things. We have that what I call organizational disease syndrome that makes us, when you go into an organization and you talk to the boss and say, listen, we really need to talk about culture in this organization. We really need to talk about diversity. They're looking at you and thinking, okay, so how is this going to change our bottom line? I'm talking about, I thought you brought a new strategy that we're going to use to sell more, that we're going to use to bring in more business and bring in, and you're talking about that. What is that? What's diversity? But then these are the very, very, things that form the foundation. They are not very significant. They don't look like they're the solution to the problems, but we miss them. Think about some of the things that we've talked about, looking at different scenarios. For me, that's something I don't spend a lot of time on. It's total waste of time. You start looking at yourself and thinking, oh, instead of doing this, why don't I stop procrastinating and just jump in straight and do what I need to do? That is patience. And you jump in without a proper plan, what happens? You fail. And before you know it, you're looking for something else because you've now condemned something that would have worked if you had a very good approach to it. You've just condemned it because, one, you didn't have the patience to look at your options. You didn't have the patience to now make an informed decision, which is the make the move part of this. Now you're jumping into somewhere else. And then you try again with the same strategy. Obviously, that is going to fail. And then you jump into the next thing, is going to fail. There's something I was talking about here last time that I called prophetic procrastination. Sometimes it helps, it works, because it's that thing that stops you from going. When you're getting that urge to go, let's go for it. And then in the end, something goes wrong. And you say, somebody says to you, Kendrick, so let me see the contract you signed with this guy before you even started doing this thing that you're doing. Oh, okay. So I needed to sign a contract before we talk about this. I didn't know that. And your lawyer would just say, you know what? Unfortunately, there is no ground to stand on. But when you're doing it, you're going boom, 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 because you don't want to take a step back, look at the scenarios. What could go wrong? Protect yourself before you then make an informed decision. And even when the decision is made, creating space for things to fail and rise, because it's in failing that you learn. And as you learn, you build in a lot of foundation to what you're doing. When you meet those things in the future, in fact, most of the issues that would have come up initially will not come up again. And you now be in a good position to see people struggling and you say, listen, my friend, just stay there. It's okay. Yes, it's not the end of the world. And they're coming to you and say, oh, I don't know what to do. Just calm down. I've seen all that, and I've gone through it. So just stick at it and keep going, keep going, keep going. Before you know it, something is going to crack open. That's my take on the patience part. Very, very good points, by the way.
That's brilliant, Chidozi. Really like the way you break that down. And I think, yeah, it's something we sometimes take for granted. I know some people have more patience than others, but then some people get ahead much quicker than others. So you can't just put patience on its own. If we take all the other topics and we look at them together, and you cover everything we've talked about, then I guess we got a good strategy, isn't it? And ask me, if you play chess against someone who never played chess before, you're bound to win. If you're inexperienced and you just jump in there and you don't cover patience and or you make your first move and you don't know strategies, don't have experience, you probably won't do very well. But you will learn from the experience and you will move forward. I think we're on the top of the hour. I just wanted to leave one more thing that I saw on the end game was you might think you're behind in life, or you might think others are ahead. But that's something like the same in the game of chess. It's never over till your king still is checkmate and your king gives up. There was a certain move that was quite a significant one to lose much in the end to win. You've moved all your characters forward and you've got all your pieces still on the board, or most of them. But at the end, and let's say your opponents move this king all the way to the back of your chessboard, and most of the pawns are eaten up, all the small decisions are made. There's only big decisions left. And you want to win by getting to the back of the board. But because most of the pieces are gone, there's a rook or a castle still in the corner. And because your king can only move one move, he can't move back out of trouble. Then it's checkmate. And that castle, that rook, didn't even move once on the game. And your opponent might not have seen that. So checkmate is always interesting, where you could lose out or you could win, depending on which side you are. But I guess patience again teaches us to be patient along with all the other things from 1 to 5 that we mentioned. Is there any thoughts, Kendrick, Clinton, or Chidozi from your sides before we wrap up?
Sorry, I think I would say something that I just remembered. Who said it? I don't remember, but I'm just going to say to be a student of life, there is a level of curiosity, a level of persistence, persistence. There's being a student of life, because it's you come with this innocent and pure approach to, and well, let me add a word to that, be a true student of life, a real one. Yeah, because there's a level of excitement, a level of curiosity, persistent, everything that goes with it to ensure that, right, I'm learning this thing, so not only I have to be patient, but I have to listen, I have to pay attention, I have to be willing to learn and unlearn at the same time, and I have to have the audacity to pursue, keep pursuing. So that's why I think I put that in there, because I think by taking a approach like that, you end up in a position where when you when you hit what you think might be a roadblock and necessary ones, you make mistakes which are necessary mistakes. So you don't call yourself dumb. You don't. And the reason why I say they're necessary because in them are lessons that then propel you forward. Yeah. So I think we just need to be careful that we don't overhype something or whatever, and just bring that simplicity and that real authentic student approach, I would call it, because you gain so much more out of life for which you have a limited time.
Excellent, sir.
In terms of what I want to add, just before I forget, apologies for being rude there. The other thing that I wanted to add is the fact that if we're looking at this as using this as a lesson, it's okay to lose a game of chess. It's not the only time you get the opportunity to play. Losing does not mean the end of the world. You have learned some things. You've learned, you know why you lost. So if this is very easy to look at this process and think if we follow it consistently, then we are always going to win. It's a game. And the same thing with life, the same thing with business, the same thing with our uh, dreams in life. Some things will not work. If it works, good. But if it doesn't work, go back to your drawing board and try again. And that's where you get to the level of expertise because, the results may not come from the first attempt. But the assurance that we have other opportunities by God's grace to try again gives you a level of confidence to say it's okay, and the consolation and comfort to say, I have at least I thank God I have the opportunity to try again. Who knows? You might get it done at the second time or the third time or the fourth time. Some people did it at the 1,000th time. They still did it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, Chidozie. Thanks for wrapping that up. I think we're on the top of the hour already. That was really good feedback from all the guys, and for those joining in, might get a chance to listen to this. I hope you found something useful out of it. I did when I came across the topic, so I thought I'll do some investigation on this. But yeah, it was really good feedback, and we got those lessons moving forward, being students that are always willing to learn. And we got all that good feedback. Thanks everyone for joining tonight, and hope we can do this again next week, and we'll cover a different topic or something similar. I like not to spill the beans, but let's stay expectant, and we find out what we're going to cover next week.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining, everyone, and see you guys soon.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so
Much
much.
appreciated.
Really appreciate it. Thanks, Andrew. Brilliant session.
Bye-bye.
All the
Bye.
best. Thank you. Good night. Bye bye.
Mr. Jordaan.
Hi there, sir. Hope that was good.